Well, good evening. My name is Kathy Bartos, and I'm one of the volunteers with Sierra Nevada Forums. And I'd like to welcome you here tonight. How many of you are here for the, how many of you are here for the first time to a forum? Great, well, welcome to the Sierra Nevada Forum family. They try to behave most of the time, so I see a lot of mothers in the audience, so already you have them very afraid. So we're very happy you're here with us tonight, and if your name is on our mailing list, then you'll be notified of forums as they are scheduled. We usually do about 8 a year. That's about all we can manage to do. But we're happy to see you here. And so moving on, I'm going to take care of just a few of the little business items, like where the bathrooms are. If you go out the door and to the left, you will find the restrooms. And because we are talking about social media tonight, let's go ahead and get our cell phones down as low as you can go on those so we're not interrupted. And Nevada Humanities, if any of you have not heard of Nevada Humanities, they have been sponsoring us for the last 3 years and helped us pay for the use of this room and to pay for having it videotaped. So if there's anything you missed tonight, or if there are people that wanted to be here that couldn't be, please let them know. If they give us about 3 weeks, and they can go to the Sierra Nevada Forum website, and this presentation will be posted there. The video will be posted. So, and Partnership Carson City, I'm associated with that as well, and they are also contributing to this project this evening. So we're very happy about that. Now we have an excellent speaker for you tonight. In fact, he came highly recommended by one of our officers who said, quote unquote, "That guy scared the bejeebies out of me." Now, of course, that caused me to ruminate for a while on exactly what a bejeebie is, but I've been thinking it's probably the physical manifestation of the heebie-jeebies. So after pondering this a little bit longer, my thought is it's probably like a kidney stone. So I will be sitting close to the aisle, and if the rest of you want to move to the aisle, because when a bejeebie wants out, it wants out. So just a cautionary note there. And now I'd like to introduce our sheriff, who will be introducing our speaker tonight and telling you a little bit about why it's very important that you're here tonight. So thank you.
How do I look? Is that okay? Thank you all for being here today. I was afraid up front, there weren't a whole lot of people, now we got a whole lot of people. This is a great opportunity today, because for us that are a little bit older, we watched and saw how society changed in our life periods. Today, we get information from around the world instantaneously. The internet, the CNN, no matter where it happens, it's right in our laps in a moment. Well, the other thing that it has caused is a lot of turmoil, because it has bred a ground for predators. And we have a lot of folks in here that are as old as me, and I turned 60 this week, so I can say that, okay? Whether we talk about our major topic today, or we're talking about scams that are coming at you, you cannot absolutely trust anything you read on that internet that's coming across your phone, that's getting into your text messages. How many of you would pay the bail if you got a text message that said, "Send $200 or we're going to come in and arrest you"? Somebody in this crowd would pay that. I gave this speech about a year ago, and I'll be danged if the next morning somebody who was not sitting in the audience came to my office and said it happened to him that night and he paid. Because he believed it. We believe what we read, and we believe what we see, and it's deceiving and it's dangerous. And so while we have a guest speaker today, I want you to kind of open your minds to not only just about what he's talking about, but to the entire world that you live in, because there is someone out there trying to get you or your children or your money. They are, and they're very good at it, and they are very convincing. And I've seen the most intelligent people in my environment fall prey to that. So it's with great pleasure that I get the opportunity to introduce Mr. Ray Spencer out of Las Vegas. And Ray, anything that I get wrong, it's okay to come up here and go, "Hey, the guy's full of shit." This is what I really do. Yes, I think that one of the biggest changes that we've seen in the last year plus 2 years is this major surge in attention to sex trafficking. What that means to you here in Carson, as Ray gets up here, is we send some officers down to Las Vegas to get trained because we don't have any sex trafficking cases here. Or are we not trained and experienced to recognize what we see here? And so having you here today is a great opportunity for not just the sheriff's office. We have one of our officers up here in the crowd as well, myself and everybody here in Carson, because our first line of defense is actually you. Mr. Spencer comes from Metro with 19 years plus experience down there. He is the chief of the sex trafficking section, pretty close? I'll make you the sheriff. I can do that this time. And truly leading the fight against women and children being sexually exploited across southern Nevada. And when he says, or when it says across southern Nevada, that literally translates into all of our homes everywhere. Because as he and I were talking over on the side, it doesn't matter whether it happens here or Las Vegas, at the rate that people get around, they move around, and the bad guys seem to get picked up here and there and everywhere else. So please give a tremendous, tremendous reception for Lieutenant or Commander Spencer. How about that?
Like the sheriff said, I'm very, very excited to be here tonight. My name is Ray Spencer. I'm the lieutenant for the Vice and Sex Trafficking section for Las Vegas Metro Police. So kind of a little bit of background on how I ended up in this assignment and some of my past assignments. I've worked 19 years in law enforcement. I grew up in Las Vegas. When I left high school, I came up here and went to college in Reno at UNR. After living in the dorms, I kind of wanted to test to see how I would do for the police department, so I ended up testing with Sparks. I worked for Sparks for 4 years, and then I left Sparks to go back to Metro, back home in 2002, where I've spent the last 15 and a half years with Metro. So currently my assignment in Metro, I've spent several years in patrol. I oversaw a street crimes enforcement squad when I was a detective for several years in sexual assault. And that is kind of where the catalyst came for this class. We noticed a huge link between kids being victimized and the internet when I was in sexual assault. So we developed this class called The Dark Side of Social Media. And then I've taught thousands, literally, on social media. And then from working as a detective, I also was a supervisor in the sexual assault unit. And then I transferred and took over what's called the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. So basically what the Internet Crimes Task Force is, it is a national task force. There are 61 task forces across the across the country, and they're all coordinated because, like the sheriff said, what happens in one jurisdiction, seconds later will be in another jurisdiction, and it's not one agency cannot handle it all. So my position was what's called the Nevada Task Force Commander. So I oversaw all child exploitation cases on the internet, and we'll talk a little bit about that on how those reports come in through the National Center and so forth. So as a result, we have to have a lot of partners throughout the state. So Carson City is an affiliate agency that we partner with. I work a lot with Dennis Carey with the Washoe County Sheriff's Office, and then I could go on and on throughout the state with our partners that we work with. In my office, in the Internet Crimes, there's 22 agents and detectives. So I have people from Henderson, North Las Vegas. I have 7 FBI agents, the Homeland Security, and a few more of the alphabet soup I'm sure I'm forgetting. But the point is, we all work together to keep kids safe on the internet. And with 22 detectives and agents, we're all drowning in cases, which is a very scary thought when you think about the amount of personnel that we have working this. So just recently, back in August, I transferred to a different section where now I oversee the Vice and Sex Trafficking section for Metro, which is a very challenging assignment that I'm currently in, and it links exactly to why I'm here today, because I can tell you just in the several months that I've overseen this unit, the amount of cases that we get that kids are lured online is staggering. So we're going to talk about that as we go on. Who here in this audience has heard of Amanda Todd? It's hard for me to see because of the lights. Can you raise your hand if you've heard of Amanda Todd? Okay, couple hands. So this here quick, I apologize, I forgot to mention something. This is a full 90-minute presentation, so if you have to use the restroom, please get up during the presentation, and I will stick around and answer everybody's question after the presentation until every question's answered. So you'll have plenty of time for questions. But this is Amanda Todd. She's 14 years old. She has her own YouTube channel. She does what a lot of 14-year-olds do. They sing, have to do silly things on the internet, and this just happens to be one of the videos that she posted. The next video that you're gonna watch is the same girl. It's Amanda Todd, but it's a much different video. She doesn't talk. She tells her story by index cards. So you're gonna have to read along as the video goes through. It originally was a 9.5-minute video, but for the sake of this presentation, you're gonna see where I obviously did a little bit of editing to get it down to about 4.5 minutes. So we'll play it and then we'll talk about it.
So strong, so proud. Never said thank you for that. And I'll never have a chance. May angels lead you in. Here you meet my friends. On sleepless roads, the sleepless go. May angels lead you in. So what would you think of me now? So lucky, so strong, so proud. Never said thank you for that. Now I'll never have a chance. May angels lead you. Here you meet my friends. On sleepless roads, the sleepless go. May angels lead you. May angels lead you. May angels lead you. And if you were with me tonight, I'd sing to you just one more time. A song for a heart so big, God wouldn't let it live. May angels lead you in. Here you meet my friends. On sleepless roads.
So it's a very, and I hate starting out the presentation on such a very dark note, but shortly after Amanda produced this video, she ended up committing suicide. What was happening is she was communicating online with what she thought was another 14-year-old child. It ended up being a grown man who lived in Ireland. And he was communicating with kids all over the world except Ireland, because when he was home during the day, kids in Ireland were at school. So he was using the internet to, exploit children globally. And what happened is he would befriend them, and he was very sophisticated. He would befriend them and get them to send images to him, and once he got an image or a video, he would then force them to do other things, and if they did not do that, he would post that to their Instagram and Facebook and other pages, which when you're 14 years old, that is your entire life. And it was very traumatic and very hard for Amanda to deal with. It ended up costing her her own life. What I will tell you is, I met Amanda's mother at a conference a couple years ago in Dallas. And it was a very difficult conversation to have, because she had said something that I always share in all my presentations. They had gone. Amanda's mom had gone to internet safety presentations. Amanda had gone to internet safety presentations. And we all think, oh, that won't happen to me. Well, I can tell you it can happen to anybody in this room with just a couple small mistakes that you cannot recover from once it's out there. And we'll talk about that a little bit more during the presentation. We have equipment and software where I can tell you how many times an image has been shared. So if a child sends an image to somebody else and it gets uploaded to Google and it's sent around the internet, I can say how many times, if it's 200,000 times, 300,000 times, how many times that image gets shared, but there's nothing I can do to get that image back. Once it is out there, it's out there. It can never be brought back and recovered. So it's important when you think of the Amanda Todd situation, how tragic it can turn out. In Las Vegas and the Clark County area, we have cases like this literally several times a week. Luckily, they do not turn out as tragic as Amanda's did, but it is a very common case where kids send an image to who they think is another 14-year-old who promised they would never share that image ever again, and how long before that image is shared to everybody? It's extremely hard to overcome. It doesn't matter. I do a lot of instruction. I teach for the police department, I teach in the academy, I teach for the Internet Crimes Task Force. I'm also an instructor for the U.S. State Department. It doesn't matter where I go on the globe, and I talk with parents that are just like you in this room. We all have the same issue when we're dealing with the internet. We didn't grow up with it, and we really don't know how to police it. We want to give our kids, freedom, and we want them to grow and get, and grow and build, skills, but you also need to make sure that you're keeping kids safe online, because there's no comparison to what you grew up with. Okay, this allows pure strangers to come into your house and interact with your kids. And we're going to give you some examples of that here in a minute. And I will tell you that I can speak with looking at most of this room that the average 14-year-old is your tech support inside your house. Okay, that's what happens. They set up everything, hey, make this work. Okay, well, that's a problem when your 14-year-old is the tech support, because, you can have things in place, safety things, but if kids have ways around it, it can be very, very bad. Who here has a cell phone with a camera on it? Raise your hand. Okay, look around the room for me. See all those hands up? Okay, put them down. Who here knows what EXIF data or metadata is? Raise your hand. Oh, this might be a record. 1, 2, 3. Raise them high. Like 6? Okay, that's a record. 6, 7. If you don't hear a single thing I say in this presentation, when you walk out of this room, make sure you know what EXIF data or metadata is.
Well, if you've got a smartphone and even once posted an online picture, you need to know about a new threat.
This is something. New technology can allow hackers to track down you and your kids, even from a simple email from us.
Mark and Elizabeth, the technology allows strangers to cherry pick from online pictures posted all over the web and then find the home, work, or even school of that person in the pic.
Perfect, just like that. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Good, girl.
We gave NBC Action News staffer Suzanne McDonald and daughter Lainey a smartphone
And a big smile towards mommy's face. Yeah.
to see just how threatening a seemingly innocent snapshot
Beautiful.
could be once loaded online.
That's frightening.
We then combed Twitter and sites like Facebook, Craigslist, and Photobucket searching for locals. We found a menu of nearby children and, with the click of a mouse, their locations.
That is legitimately terrifying.
It's a new and frightening threat to parents,
So we right-click, then we hit that data file.
That's the program.
and the full threat is even an unknown to many internet crime experts.
Had you ever seen it go this far before?
No.
Officer Mark Chuddick calls the hidden threat today's biggest risk online.
It's probably going to be number one for a while.
And that's where she was when that picture was taken.
That's incredible.
Remember Lainey? We used the technique to map her bedroom.
Scary. Like, terrifying.
We found not only Lainey's home, but located her daycare, favorite fast food shop, and right down to the specific part of the park where she plays.
Especially as a parent, because the fact that you can see the exact place of it.
At UMKC, computer science professor Deep Mehdi says smartphones leave a high-tech invisible trail using the same geo-tracking technology that enables the social network Foursquare and handheld map apps.
Exactly like in your GPS device in the car, the way you do it, it can tell you exactly where it is.
Mehdi shows how free, easily obtained browser add-ons can translate that data into maps.
So exactly that spot where the picture was taken.
The site ICanStalkYou.com reposts pics from unwitting Twitter users in real time, translating their photos into actual addresses and maps. The site also has a how-to on deactivating geotagging on the iPhone, BlackBerry, Google Android, and Palm.
We want to be able to do almost on a picture basis.
With this online bedroom pic, we were able to find the home of these Olathe brothers.
Hi, I'm Rose Patasi. I'm with NBC Action News.
Their startled mom didn't want to talk on camera.
No, thank you.
Off camera, we warned her, and she changed their online settings to private. Until then, the location of her kid's bedroom, their hangout, and their school were all available to anyone online.
Basically what you're doing is you're telling the bad guy where I live, where I recreate, my likes, my dislikes, what my mom or dad look like, where I live. I mean, the online mapping is phenomenal.
Big smile. Pretty girl.
Experts say you can still be perfectly safe just by turning off GPS setting on pics you plan to post online.
Perfect.
So before you post another picture online, what you want to do is get into your phone and you want to get into your settings.
This video here, when you talk about EXIF data and metadata, let's pretend I don't know nothing about EXIF data. Several months ago, I was given a news interview in my office on this topic. So I had the cameraman and I had the news reporter in my office, and I was talking about this specific topic. So to demonstrate, I told her, take a picture of the real handsome guy, not me, shameless plug, the baby is now. So she takes a picture and sends it to me in a text message. And let's pretend I know nothing about EXIF data. We all here know how to use Google. So I go to Google after she sends me the text message, and I put in view EXIF data in photo. And I don't know if you can see, it might be a little difficult back there to read, but it only pulls up a couple results. It only pulled up 9,900,000 for me to choose from. So I only clicked on one of the first ones, which was Jeffrey's EXIF viewer right there, but you can pretty much click on any of them. And once I clicked on Jeffrey's, it brings me to this page. I have a couple options. I can put the address of a picture that I'm trying to get information from off the internet, or if I have a picture, I can upload the photo and try to get information from the picture. Well, since I had the picture, I uploaded it. I clicked View Image from File, and it brings this up. That's the picture we all remember that was taken, and it tells me a couple things about the photo. It was taken with an Apple iPhone 5. It was a 4.1 megapixel camera. The flash didn't fire. It was on September 18th at 8:35 in the morning. And it gives me the latitude and longitude. So it's been quite a few years since I was in high school, so I forget a lot about latitude and longitude, but you don't need to, because it gives you a map. This here is Martin Luther King, and this here is Alta. This is in downtown Las Vegas. These three big buildings is Metro Police Headquarters. So this is how you know you've made it. When your office is on the second floor, you overlook a dumpster, a freeway, and a furniture store, that's exactly where my office is, okay? It's right next to that green arrow. It's about 40 feet. If I were to take that picture inside your house, at a Starbucks, or someplace that's not some huge Class A office building, it would literally show the exact location down to the bedroom of where the photo was taken. So why is this important? Several years ago, we had a 13-year-old who was communicating with another child who ended up being a grown man who lived in California, and she had sent a photograph, not even an inappropriate photograph, and that person drove to Vegas, found her house, and neighbors called in a suspicious vehicle parked in front of her house all day, and it was the guy that she was communicating with who found her house from the photo. So before you take another photo on your camera phone, make sure you turn off the GPS setting for camera. You don't want to turn it off for the entire phone because the phone won't work the way it's supposed to. If you have an iPhone, you go into your settings, you go to privacy, then you look for location services. Scroll down to camera. It needs to say never. If it says while using, switch it to never. If you have an Android, it is different on every Android-based phone. Most of them, if you actually go to the camera itself and look for the gray settings wheel, you're looking for location tag. You want that to say off. And again, I'll stick around after the presentation if anybody needs help finding it so I can help them with it. But it's very, very important, that, especially with your kids, that they're turning that information off on their phones and iPads and so forth. Who here has an iPhone? Raise your hand, please. Who has an iPhone that I can look at your privacy settings? Can I?
Saw a lot of hands go down.
Anybody else? I just want to check a couple of things. Susan, have we ever met before?
No, sir.
Okay, and I'm going to be vague when I'm talking because I'm not going to put her information out here in this setting. But we've never met before, but you're all walking around with handheld computers that track everything you do. It's not a phone, it's a handheld computer that tracks pretty much everything you do. So I can look at her phone and I can see that you were in Reno on the 10th of last month. I can also see when you went to Minden. I can see when you were in Gardnerville. I can also click in Carson City and see your house, and I can see where you live, and I'm not going to put it out here, but I can see where you live. I can see what time you come and go from your house. That's how much information is there. I can see the places that you go in Carson City, different streets, all the streets that you visit, the dates that you go, the times that you go. It is a lot of information. So what I pulled up on her phone, Facebook kind of stole my thunder on this a few months back, so a couple people may have seen it on Facebook. But if you go into your phone, this is a screenshot from my phone, kind of what I just pulled up on hers. If you go into the settings, you can see on the right side of the screen, it said I was in San Francisco on July 10th. I went to Reno on July 15th. I was in Lake Tahoe on the 18th of July. People say I'm cheap. I say I'm thrifty. However, I have small kids, and they really wanted to go to the Super Bowl. So Super Bowl tickets are pretty expensive, and I said, you know, instead of the Super Bowl, why don't we go to Arizona and we can see the Arizona Cardinals preseason game for $6. So I can see, I took them, and they were $6. So we went to Arizona for a football game. I had a class in Dallas. Everything I do, it records. Well, if I click on one of these for more specific information, it brings up a different map. So on the left, you can see I was at work on August 5th. I was at my mom's house on August 2nd. I was at the county building getting a pool permit on the 3rd. It's a ton of information. That's on your iPhones. If you have an Android and I can get online into your Google account, the amount of information and location history that I can get from places that you visit is staggering. That is how much these phones track and keep on every one of you. I pick on Facebook a lot. We can see that's my name. We can all see that's not me. I don't work at Chick-fil-A and I'm not from Chester, Maryland. But you can be whoever you want to be on the internet. Kids, raise your hand if you have a Facebook account. Okay, kids between, hands down the most popular social networking account or platform out there, hands down. Kids between 13 and 17 are leaving Facebook in record numbers. Any idea why? It's not cool anymore. Raise your hands again. You're all on it. We're on it. Your parents are on it. Their grandparents are on it. They've migrated to other platforms, but it is still hands down the number one out there. I have an undercover Facebook account that I use for work, and it's not this one, but the undercover account says that I'm a high school age kid, that I go to school at a school in Las Vegas, and I have just over 900 friends on that undercover account. Any idea how many times I've been denied a friend request? It's never happened. We have a great line that we use when we send out the friend request where the kids go, oh yeah, I remember him. And they hit accept and they just became friends with the police. So do you really know who your friends are? And I pick on my mother-in-law a lot when I teach my presentations. Love her to death, great mother-in-law, and it's really awkward when I pick on her and she's in my presentations. But she's retired, she has a lot of free time on her hands, and she shares so much information on Facebook and has 650 friends. I don't know 650 people, but she has 650 friends. And part of it's she's kind of nosy, and and I tell her, I say, do you really care about someone 40 years ago in high school? If you didn't like them 40 years ago in high school, why are you friends with them and sharing this type of information? So I have an exercise, and it really works great in Las Vegas. It would work well here too. Post on your Facebook feed that you need help moving on August 15th at 3 p.m. in the afternoon, okay, when it's 115 or 95 here. Anybody who comes to help you move, I'm busy that day. Those are your friends, okay? The point is this, you need to shrink down your friend list. Do you really need to be sharing all this type of information with people that you know? And I always ask parents this, if your kids have a Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat, and we'll talk about those, should you be their friends on their social networking platform? Should you be? I hear no, I hear yes. Yes. Absolutely. Be their friends. As soon as you hit accept, never make another comment, post, like, nothing ever again. Just hit accept. Be their friend and fade off into the shadows behind this curtain here. The amount of intelligence that you will get when you just sit back and watch and listen instead of getting involved in their social networking will pay huge dividends down the road. And I say that because how many of us, I can say us, growing up when we didn't have social networking, was your grandmother or parents that involved in everything that you did? Every comment, if you had a conversation with a friend, that's the equivalent. Kids are having these conversations online, and picking on my mother-in-law again, so she picked every comment that, my 14 or 15-year-old nieces make, they'll make a comment, and I call it interjecting yourself into 14-year-old drama, okay? Every comment they make, she has to put, a life lesson or something involved into the comment thread. The point is, let them have their space, but fade in and just listen and see what they're doing on their pages. What are you posting? Can you delete what you post on these social networking platforms? I hear yeah, I hear no. Okay, here's what I'll tell you. You can hit delete, but it is never gone. We have what we call basically, it's a 20-minute workup that we will do, and we can pretty much recover most posts ever done when a kid posts on these platforms. The point is it really never goes away. It's not just background checks for jobs. Before you can get accepted into certain colleges now, they are doing social media background checks on these kids before they accept them into college. And you can lose, I personally know somebody who lost one specific scholarship based upon social networking posts. That's how these colleges are getting involved in some of the social networking and background checks. And your privacy settings. Facebook will tell you they are committed to your privacy. Okay? So, are they? No. They data mine so much information on you. And this last Christmas, I share a story. Don't judge me when I tell you this. So I found out what my Christmas gift was, because we have a home computer, and my wife was searching on home computer for what I wanted for Christmas. And all of a sudden on my Facebook feed, I see these ads for a Vitamix blender, which is what I wanted. So basically, everything she searches, those ads. Go home today, search on your computer, airfare from Reno to Vegas, and tell me what you see all day tomorrow on your Facebook feed. They data mine. The amount, your emails, your phone book, all these friend connections, okay, random people that pop up, they're data mining that from your information that is on the phone. Because I'm sure every one of you have read the 78-page user agreement and privacy statement that you agreed to when you signed up, right? So that's the type of information that they're doing. And another thing I share too, let's pretend you wanted to see what your ex-girlfriend was doing from 17 years ago. So you punch in her name on Facebook, because you just want to see her pictures and see what she looks like now, and you just start searching her and looking through her page. Guess what happens the next time she logs into Facebook? Anytime you ever search for somebody by name specific on Facebook, the first time they log on, that first little box of people you may know, you're going to pop in there. So I wish somebody would have told, not saying it was me, but wish somebody would have told me that. So again, if you see a random person pop up that, just kind of out of the blue that you haven't talked to, there's a good chance that they searched for you. It's just a lot of information that they're keeping on everybody. But a rule of thumb, would you go up and introduce yourself by your screen name to your coach, your pastor, or your grandmother? We see some of the most inappropriate screen names from 13-year-olds that will make you blush. If you're 13, you should have nothing, XXX 702 or something to that effect in your profile where you're getting attention. If you're using the word sexy at 14 in your profile, it's going to attack attention kids do not need. We also talk about the multiple profiles, and this is extremely common. So the parents, even parents that are proactive and they're involved, the kids will say, oh, I really want an Instagram account. And you let them have their one Instagram account. Well, that's the one you know about, okay? Where then they have the other one that they do all their things on, which you don't know about. The amount of that we see is very, very high. So just be aware. Just because you think they have one doesn't mean that's the only account that they have. This is extremely important when we're providing the correct age. So if a child lies and says, they're 14 and they post that they're 16 on their social media page, and then they go out and become the victim of a statutory sexual seduction, we now have a case that is extremely problematic, because when we go interview the suspect who tells us, well, I thought she was 16 because of the page, now we have some issues because of the age of consent in our state. So again, it's very important that kids are not lying about their age on social media. Never telling people that you don't know your address or location. Who here is guilty of the check-in feature on Facebook? I'm not the only one. Okay. So you're so excited, you take your kids down to Legoland for spring break, you take your selfie, you pose in front of Snoopy, and you post it on social networking. Well, if I'm one of your 600 friends, you've now told me that you're out of town, and it gives me an opportunity to go shopping at your house while you're gone. It's a joke for burglary, okay? It's we're seeing a lot of this now in high schools because kids have so many friends, and then I say friends in quotes, because once they post that information, other kids are going to their house and committing burglaries based upon that.
Carrie McMullen and Kurt Pendleton are here exclusively this morning. Good morning to you both. Good morning. With friends like these, who needs enemies, huh, Carrie? Unbelievable. Let's start from the beginning. Did you even give it a second thought, even for a second, about posting where you were going for the night?
No, I do it every day.
And now, in hindsight?
I haven't been on there since.
You haven't been on there since?
No.
So then you get home, you watch the surveillance video, and you take matters into your own hands, still not realizing this is one of your Facebook friends, posting the images online. What kind of response do you get?
Of course, people were saying they were sorry. I had one person say that they thought it was a particular person, but the person's not been ID'd by the cops yet, so we're not 100% sure. I have a lot of friends on there that I don't talk to on a regular basis that's from high school, so that's why the camera's out there and, you know, their faces are on TV, so hopefully he can be ID'd.
They will be positively identified.
What about this? Who's recently heard of this? Okay, pretty much most of the room. So when you talk about the internet and different things, and I put this in here regarding the blue well and the dozens of suicides in Russia. What I will tell you is we have not had one confirmed case on the, I know for a fact in the state of Nevada we have not had a confirmed case, and none that I know of as of 2 weeks ago in the United States. There's some issue as far as when you go into Russia and you start doing some research as far as if some suicides were linked, that's undetermined, but I will tell you it's not something that we have seen here in the United States. But here's the problem. All the press that this has got now in the last couple months, what are we going to start to see now? Because it has been popular, you know, there's been some cases as far as a lot of news stories regarding it. Don't be shocked if it's something that starts becoming more and more prevalent. But I will tell you, as of 2 weeks ago, it's not something that we're seeing, and we can't confirm as far as if there's any cases within the United States regarding it. What about Musical.ly? Who's never heard of Musical.ly? Okay, so Musical.ly is an app that kids are using that is extremely popular, especially when you're dealing with middle and elementary kids. It's basically, if I were to sit here and I were to sing into the phone, it's a lip-singing type app. So I could sing to Carly Rae Jepsen. Again, don't judge. So I could sing to Carly Rae Jepsen, and I could post it, and you share the video and share the links. The thing I will tell you, and when we're building this PowerPoint, because it changes often, and we build this presentation based upon cases that we see. Musical.ly is not a we're not seeing a lot of Musical.ly cases. We have had a couple when we deal with the task force, but we're not seeing a lot of them. But it's just something that parents need to be aware of. If your kids are using it, you want to have it set, the privacy restrictions, you want to have a control of it, and you want it very private. You don't want just anybody to be able to communicate and see what your kids are posting. Let the groups be closed and be private. So again, just be aware it's a very popular app, but it's something as far as, luckily, it's not the top of our list. We're going to talk about some of the apps that are top of our list. And when I get into that, let me explain how this happens. There is a federal law that every electronic service provider in the United States has to report child exploitation. So when I first took over as commander of the Nevada Task Force in 2014, we had a record year that year. We had almost broke 1 million cyber tips, as they're called. So every Facebook, Google, Dropbox, Microsoft, anytime a child is exploited, they report to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. It's the milk carton people. We call them, if you're familiar with the old milk carton pictures. They are the repository for all of these tips. Then the National Center sends those out to the Internet Crimes Task Force. So anyone that comes to the state of Nevada comes to me, always at 3 o'clock in the morning. 3 o'clock in the morning, we get a list of every cyber tip in the state of Nevada. So when we come in, we sort them out, and if it's Vegas, we handle it. If it's anywhere in the Reno, Carson City area, I'm sending that to Dennis Carey at Washoe County. Then he is going to send that out and handle it as far as the agencies up here. So we see what cases and what apps kids are becoming exploited on. So that's kind of where we tailor the presentation to. So I talk about it because I get a lot of questions about it. as far as musically, but again, we're not seeing a lot of kids being exploited on the app. Who has never heard of Snapchat? So when, couple people, okay. When Snapchat first came out, I absolutely hated Snapchat. I could not go 15 minutes without a principal, a counselor, some school official calling me because someone had taken a picture and it was permanently vanished 15 seconds after they took it, that was now being passed around a school. It was so problematic that this is the app that caused us to go to the Nevada State Legislature to get the child pornography law changed, so we had something to address it other than child pornography. That's how big of an issue it was. I've kind of softened my stance towards Snapchat, and I'll talk about that here in a second.
The latest app that has caught fire with teens, it's called Snapchat. You know, the appeal is, it says you can share a snapshot with friends without any risk of an embarrassing viral moment because the photo's programmed to vanish seconds after it's set. But is it encouraging kids to send inappropriate photos that actually won't disappear? ABC's Lindsay Davis has more on the controversy.
This message will self-destruct in 30 seconds.
It's technology right out of an Inspector Gadget episode. Teens everywhere believe they're sending their own self-destructing messages online with an app called Snapchat. The photos you snap and then share with your friends allegedly disappear in just seconds.
Yeah, that's like kind of the appeal. Because the fun of it's to send embarrassing pictures. Texting's made for words, but now that there's Snapchat, it's like, okay, now we can communicate with pictures.
With that belief that there's no permanent record of the photo, the Snapchat community has shared more than 1 billion snaps since the app was first introduced in July.
30,688, and I've received 13,469.
Worldwide, more than 20 million different, sometimes compromising, embarrassing, and yes, even explicit photos are shared every day.
You've never received a picture?
I've gotten one, but like I just asked the person, I was like, what are you doing? Like, this is gross. Yeah, like it's just unnecessary.
Like a mail?
Like we wouldn't think to use it like that.
A self-deleting picture app is something some celebrities might appreciate. Like Prince Harry. What if his infamous TMZ photos in Vegas were stripped away as instantly as his clothes were?
The picture was of me, and I sent it.
Or if Anthony Weiner's boxers had only been on the screen briefly.
In addition to pictures, you can also take video and then send it to your friends.
It works much the same way, and then in theory, in just seconds, it's gone. Yet, it turns out with Snapchat and Poke, a similar app through Facebook, the videos don't actually vanish as advertised.
People who are using this and thinking that no one else will see their pictures or that no one else will see their videos are kidding themselves. You can take screenshots, you can take a picture of your phone with another camera. There are all kinds of ways to save those pictures.
Like everyone has this fear that everything online is permanent, so that's the point of this, but you know, having the ability to take a screenshot really defeats the whole purpose of Snapchat.
We reached out to Snapchat for comment, but did not hear back. The takeaway here, if you want something to be private, don't share it. Get the picture. For Good Morning America, Lindsay Davis, ABC News, New York.
I always laugh when I watch that video because I do different presentations, and I use this video in my middle school presentation. And last year, I had a 6th grader raise their hand after watching it, and they're like, excuse me, and I go, yes, who's Inspector Gadget? I'm like, you're killing me. So, but before I make this next comment, I do have to put a little disclaimer that I may be a little jaded, but I'm willing to bet you my next 5 house notes that you saw the video. Did you see Paige Phillips and her 2 girlfriends that they were interviewing on the news there? That they're probably not being 100% truthful. Oh, we never use it like that. Oh, we've seen one inappropriate picture. The amount of inappropriate pictures that we see through through Snapchat is staggering. Okay, luckily, in the last couple years, it has dropped dramatically, where kids at least now recognize it can easily be captured and shared amongst other people. This is a Review Journal newspaper article. Millions of deleted Snapchat photos were released. Hackers were to blame. So how often do you have to get a new debit or credit card because somebody hacks into something? Same thing that happened to Snapchat. Somebody hacked into Snapchat and then were threatening to release pictures and videos that were stored with Snapchat.
You snap a photo, you share it, and then it's gone, it disappears. That is how the photo sharing app called Snapchat built its business. Privacy, a big selling point for teenagers. About half the users are between 13 and 17. Some of them shared naked pictures thinking they would disappear. Now, hackers claim to have stolen 100,000 private photos and videos, and there are threats to publish them. They could include photos of children. Snapchat says servers were not tampered with, but yes, its victims or its users were victimized. And here to talk about this, personal finance expert Erica Sandberg. So we've talked about credit cards, Erica, and debit cards. So this, you snap a photo, you share it, and then it's gone, it disappears.
So a long time ago, back, and I'm looking around the room, I don't think anybody in here is old enough to remember this far back, but long time ago, back in the electronic stone ages, back in 2015, you had to capture the Snapchat the old-fashioned way. Okay, you had to take a screenshot, but that let the other person know, or you had to take another phone and take a picture, or you might have had a thing that we used to have a long time ago that weren't connected to phones called a camera, and you could take a picture. Well, where there is a way to make $1, they're going to come up with ways to make money. Now you can simply go to the App Store and you can download SnapKeep, Snapbox, SnapSpy, KeepSnap, the list goes on, that will capture the Snapchat without the other person knowing. So is any of this really private? Okay, it's easily shared and it's easily captured if somebody wants to capture the image. Luckily, kids are at least getting smarter with it now. So I told you, I've softened my stance towards Snapchat. This is what I do in my office all day. You can see, right? So they have some cool filters if you're not familiar with it, and it's actually a pretty cool app. And I even let my kids use it because the filters and there's cool things that they can do. The difference is I closely monitor and control who they're friends with. It's all family. So if it's not a family member or somebody I know, they're not friends with them. And that's how, you have to make sure you're keeping track on what they're doing. And again, there are some cool features to the app. Years ago, when I started doing this presentation, I always used Snapchat as my example. I went to Faith Lutheran Junior Senior High School back in 2013, I believe, and I had 1,300 kids in the auditorium. And I asked them, who has used or heard of Snapchat? Every one of them raised their hand. That night, I went to a PTA conference at the same school, and I had almost 100 parents in the auditorium, and I asked them, who here has heard of or used Snapchat? Not one raised their hand. That's a huge problem. 1,300 kids, no parents are aware of it. So when I talk about this next app, I'm gonna have kind of a similar comparison with the room when you raise your hand if you've heard of it. So one of the things I like to ask, who here, what do we talk about when we educate kids about strangers? Stranger danger, don't talk to strangers, don't get in the white van, be aware of your surroundings, okay? We educate, stranger danger, right? Who here has 14, 15-year-old daughter at home? Sir, did you just raise your hand in the gray? Okay, so I use this example. If I'm parked in front of your house and I'm hanging out in front of your house all day, you just see me out there hanging out there, you don't know me from anybody, and I'm looking inside your house, and I knock on your door, and I go, hey, I just was hanging out in front of your house, looking in, I saw your daughter in her room, can I come in, hang out in her room, and close the door? How well would that conversation go? Not real well, right? Okay, so I give you this example for a reason. Who here has heard of the app Omegle? Raise your hand. Hold on, would you raise your hand for me? Look at the demographics of who's raising their hands. Okay? I can see it's harder for me to see, but I can see definitely a couple teenagers raising their hand. How many parents, raise your hand if you've never heard of the app, Omegle. Okay, Omegle is the white van. It's complete stranger danger.
So, you just heard that the girls met the alleged abuser on an online chat site called Omegle. Fox 9's Karen Scullin joining me now. And Karen, you talked to an expert today who says this site is not only very popular, it's also probably the most dangerous site out there right now.
Right, that's exactly what she said. And after trying it out for myself, I could see why. It is really, really easy to use, and there seems to be a lot of people on there looking for something besides a casual conversation.
Omegle is hugely popular, and internet safety experts call it incredibly dangerous for children who are easily lured in.
It is 100% advertised to talk to strangers. That is the immediate draw and pull-in of the site.
There is an age restriction of 18, but there's no way to police that.
It's simply, are you 18? Yes or no. You just click yes and you're in.
And the site really is unbelievably easy to use. All you do is go to Omegle.com and click on the text. You don't have to have an account or anything. They're finding a random stranger for me to speak with right now, and there are 27,000 people right now on Omegle to choose from. Almost every single time, immediately what's established is age, sex, and location, sometimes coming up as ASL. He's established that he's male, and he is also 20 years old. I typed in that I was 20. You can put in any age that you want.
And all of a sudden, more personal questions and more details are all of a sudden revealed in the blink of an eye almost.
Now, this first chat we had on the big screen here, but most of the chats on Omegle are taking place on iPads or iPhones. I've had 10 conversations today on an iPad, and most of them, within the first 3 to 4 questions, turn sexual.
Once you disconnect, you will likely never find that same person again. That's why the user may try to direct the person he's chatting with to text privately or ask for a phone number. And that's when some sort of relationship can develop. Henninger recommends talking with kids about online dangers, adding the earlier, the better.
Let's put it this way. When I've talked to students in the past, I've had many, many kindergartners talk to me about all sorts of different social networking sites, websites, and apps that they use on a regular basis.
Now, Karina says the key to keeping kids safe isn't barring them or banning them from certain chat sites, because there are always new ones popping up every single day that they can get access to. She says the real key is having conversations about online predators, not giving out information, any information, not age, not sex, not location, nothing. And you really do need to explain why. Maybe a tough conversation to have, but certainly an important one.
It is, and you said something in your piece that piqued my interest. You said that users may be asked to go to a private way of communicating once they connect on that site. Like what?
Well, that seemed to be the deal. In all my conversations, everyone wanted me to go to private sites, because once you're off Omegle, you're done. You'll never talk to that person again. So they kept saying, will you go to Kik? Go to Kik. Well, that's a free texting app that I guess a lot of people have. It doesn't use data, and I think there's not a way to trace it particularly, but Kik is definitely a popular one, or just asking for a phone number, as I mentioned in the package.
Parents and kids beware.
Oh, definitely.
Thank you.
So what you're going to see is some screenshots from a conversation I had on one of my undercover accounts. So at 8:51 in the morning, I log in my office, and I start having a conversation with some random stranger. So as you can see when I log on, first thing it says, you're chatting with a random stranger. Stranger says, are you a guy or a girl? I said, girl, you? He says, look me up, and he gives me that address. I give him a question mark like I don't know what he's talking about, but I do. It's a Kik account, and we'll talk about that here in a second. I ask, are you a male or female? He says, male. Where are you from? I said, Las Vegas. You? He said, India. Are you there in Kik? I go, India. Wow, that's far. Yeah, I'm on Kik. He gives me a happy face. Send me your ID. So at 8:59, he's asking me, oh, have you had sex before, any time? I said, yeah. How was the experience? You can see I edited it. I said, oh, I don't do that. He says, oh, okay. And then he says, how was the experience? Hardly. You can see I edited that portion. I say, I'm not really 20. He says, then? I said, 15. He says, 15, teenage girl. You're going to have nice boobs coming up and hot. You can figure that when I edit it. In this small age you've had sex, I tell them blushing. So I have a handbook. In this handbook, because when you have conversations on the internet and chatting conversations, you really need a handbook. It's this thick with all the acronyms and different responses. So one of the responses that says for us to use is blushing. So if you see blushing, probably talking to the police. I tell him blushing. He says extraordinary. I say, I've only done that with my boyfriend. Can you share the experience? So it's 9:07. We've been talking for 16 minutes now. So we're pretty much internet best friends now, right? I said, can I tell you the truth? Can I trust you? He wants to know if I want to have online sex with him. He says, yeah, you can trust me. Well, I'm only 13. I'll be 14 next week. Please don't tell my parents. So we all in this room now know that he is going to go, oh my God, this is disgusting. He's going to disconnect, and I'm never going to hear from this guy again, right? Who thinks that's happening? Okay. Everything else is true, I tell him. Well, share your experience, or we can have online sex now. I said, online sex, how does that work? He says, if you're interested, we can start. Okay. Are you alone in your room? Well, I'm in my bedroom by myself. My mom's making breakfast, so I may have to disconnect if she knocks on my door. Don't miss me, I'll be there in Kick. You have my ID? Yeah, okay, my name is Hatch Wilfred. Okay, let's come to our privacy sex. Close the door and sit on the bed. Okay, I did. He says, start pressing your boobs. It's actually me grabbing your boobs. He asks if I'm becoming horny. I tell him, breakfast is ready. I got to go for now. There's only so much I'm doing for the sake of this presentation. So I have had 200 conversations on Omegle. 195 of them are like this. This is the closest I can get to a G-rated one that I can actually edit and use in a presentation. 2 times, we actually had underage kids that we were talking with out of the 200. Those 2 we immediately have to disconnect. So again, that's the type of volume you're talking with predators that are using this type of an app. Same thing with chat roulette. You're really having conversations with strangers. So once you disconnect from Omegle, you'll never find this person again. So you have to exchange contact information. So that's what happened when he gave me that address. He gave me his Kick account. Who's never heard of Kick? Raise your hand. Okay, it is our number 1 problem in Nevada with social networking apps. When you're dealing with when you're dealing with text messaging, let's pretend you go to the Apple store and you're eligible for an upgrade, and you have your old iPhone, and you give it to your 13-year-old because they don't have a phone, they just want to play on the internet and use the phone. They can go, because they don't need a cell phone service, they just simply download the app, and they can communicate with anybody in the world through the app. It's extremely, extremely popular. I'm going to play the video. This video, you're going to have to adjust the sound because it's kind of high.
And it's putting the spotlight
This video
on
from
how
about
kids could
a
be
year
used.
ago.
The story is heartbreaking. Erica Hill's here, and she's going to talk about the story, but also then give parents some information they can use.
Yeah, some real practical takeaways here. This afternoon, 13-year-old Nicole Lavelle will be laid to rest. A Virginia teen disappeared last week. Her body found over the weekend. And while the investigation into her murder is still ongoing, her use of certain messaging apps is now the focus of attention.
As Nicole Lavelle's family and community mourn the loss of the 13-year-old, they are also searching for answers.
These 2 individuals took my daughter from this planet, and I want to know why. I want all the information I can get.
Long before Nicole snuck out of her house, friends suspect a predator may have snuck into her life through social media.
Nicole touched many people.
While police have not mentioned specific evidence, authorities say Nicole was active on Twitter and a Facebook forum called Teen Dating and Flirting. She reportedly showed friends texts on Kick from an 18-year-old man she planned to meet just before she disappeared. Kick claims it has more than 240 million users, with 40% of American teens using the app. Kick issued the following statement to NBC News. We have a dedicated team working 24/7 to partner with law enforcement agencies around the world. We are also actively involved in a broader societal effort to educate parents, kids, and law enforcement about online trust and safety. KIC says it has developed new safety features to block, filter, or report inappropriate behavior. Along with teens, KIC has also become well known among child predators, according to police around the country. Last year, a convicted sex offender reached out to NBC affiliate WOOD, warning the app could easily be used to prey on potential victims.
The first thing that I thought was, wow, I can be whoever I want to be.
Experts say the way to think about your child's smartphone is the way you used to think about the family computer. So for years, we were told you should keep the computer in the open, don't let a child have it in a closed room. So now they say it's the same thing with phones. Don't let them take it to bed at night. Don't let them have it without your supervision.
I got a 14-year-old and a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old. The two older ones, this is right up their alley. The first app you want people to know about is KIC. We're not saying it's a horrible app, but there are things you should know about.
Like all of these, they have a great intent. It's when people use them for nefarious purposes. So this one, the attraction for a lot of kids is not tied to a phone number or your email. You just have a username, and you can chat with all kinds of people. But there are concerns about other people who could, of course, contact children.
And there are apps within the app. That's where you can get in trouble.
And that's a separate concern. There are great things within the app, like, news and information, but there are other things that...
So this says 40% of U.S. teens. I think it's higher, but the amount of kids that are using it is very, very high. Domestically, it's KIC. Outside the U.S., it's WhatsApp. But again, be very cautious if your kids are using KIC, because they can communicate with pretty much anybody. And I've heard things, parents have told me, well, I have settings on my router at home where they can't, access sites because I've blocked them. Well, the same parent that told me, when we interviewed the 14-year-old boy in that case, the 14-year-old said, yeah, well, I can't connect to my home internet, but if I go into my brother's room and I stand in the corner, I can connect to a neighbor's open Wi-Fi and I can get on and do whatever I need to. Okay? Kids are resourceful. Okay, the point is, especially when you talk, and I don't want to get too complicated, but even when parents set up parameters on an iPhone, you can set up different restrictions and different things. Well, kids are jailbreaking the phones to get around it. So there's ways, and that's way more complicated than I want to get in today. Just be aware. There's no foolproof way. You have to make sure you're going through the phones and becoming aware of the device. So on KIC, the guy I was talking with, Hatch Wilfred, is that profile picture your photo, he asks. I tell him, yeah. He says, oh, you're hot, babe, thank you. Blushing. He gives me a compliment. He says, can you send me your photos? I said, well, what do you look like? He says, look at my profile picture. I look the same. Like, that's him. I give him a question mark. I tell him that has writing on it. He says, yeah, it's my friend's photography page. Can I have another picture? Sure. He sends me this. Well, instantly I know, if you're familiar with the app KIC, he came from his phone, he didn't take the picture because it says gallery instead of camera. So he tells me, like, that's him. He asks if I got it. Yeah, be right back. He then sends me that picture, like, that's him. Now send me your photos. Hey, are you there? So I kind of ignore him at this point because I have to balance my investigative resources, and India's a little far outside of my jurisdiction. So I've kind of moved on and just ignored him. He keeps sending me messages. Hey, morning. I'm just like, hey, it's nighttime. And I'm kind of just ignoring him. And see how the Jack Wilfred, the uppercase W for his last name? He then sends me another one with a lowercase, different profile pitch. Hey, I'm your friend. We had sex chats. Hey, babe. This went on for 9 months of him trying to communicate with me. What he did is he created a new profile with the same name, thinking that I had blocked him. So the point is, be very, very cautious if your kids are using the app. I'm not saying it's a horrible app. What I'm saying is that the opportunity for them to communicate with random strangers is a problem. Who's heard of Whisper? A handful of people?
2 Illinois communities are on edge tonight after a school teacher is charged with trying to solicit a minor for sex over social media. Fox 2's Rocky Madden is live in Mount Vernon tonight with the connection this case has to a Metro East town. Rocky?
Yeah, that's right, Mandy. The suspect has been teaching here at Mount Vernon High School, teaching math. Well, he's since been suspended. Now, the alleged victim lives more than an hour from here in Troy, Illinois. Take a look. He's 25-year-old Kevin W. Battis. At last report in the Madison County Jail on a $150,000 bond for indecent solicitation of a child and grooming. Now, police say grooming means he used an electronic device like a cell phone to lure the 8th grade girl. That is a recently passed law in the Illinois. Detectives indicate the messages were inappropriate and sexually graphic. Police say the two connected on an app called Whisper, but they never did meet in person. The school here in Mount Vernon is long.
So if you're not familiar with the app, you can post and comment anonymously based on location. So I just pulled up the app while the video was playing, and there's somebody 0.8 miles away. So within a mile of where I'm standing right now, someone just posted, "Hey, let's hang." Another person, I'm just going to read the ones I can read. Here's one. "I'm going to stop wearing my bra permanently," within a half mile of here. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different. Where's Strawberry? Anyone willing to drive to Strawberry to buy some cigs? Yeah. Then there's another one. "Dream guy, where are you? 18-year-old female, half mile away from where I'm standing." So the point is, I can start communicating with people that I know are within close proximity of where I'm at. Okay, it's a risk. Because now if your kids are using it, and then someone goes on the app, they know how close the kid is to them, and then they can start building a relationship from it, kind of like you just saw in this clip. What about the after-school app? Okay, I was going to actually remove the after-school app a couple months ago because I hadn't had a case on it in about 5 to 6 months. And then I was doing a high school presentation, and in the high school presentation at the end, a girl comes up to me and says, "Hey, have you heard of the after-school app? It's horrible." And I'm like, huh, if the kids are telling me, I'm keeping it in. This app has been banned by Apple twice, and now it's back. They've made some modifications to it, and we'll talk about it here in a sec.
Do your kids have the after-school app? Well, parents and teachers, take a careful look at that logo on the left side of the screen so you can recognize it if you see it. This is a very controversial app right now, and we're going to show you what it's all about. First of all, this is a new anonymous app similar to Yik Yak, Secret, Whisper, and Ask FM. It lets you post anonymously, as you can see on the right-hand side. The main distinguishing feature is that it creates a separate chat group for each school. We're going to show you what that looks like. To join the group, you have to verify that you're a student of the school local to you, and the app will check the information posted on your Facebook page. We're going to show you exactly how to bypass that and how kids are doing that. Now, what's the main issue with this after-school app? Well, the app was launched on October 13th of 2014. It was targeted towards school students, so it was marketed 12+, 12 years old and older. Now, the problem with it is in 2 months, the app gained thousands of users, school students, and opponents, teachers, and parents. As you can see on the right-hand side, there's different schools. We're going to show you exactly how that works. Now, what's the main issue? Well, after a number of complaints, the app was temporarily unavailable in the mobile app stores until they changed the age restriction to 17+, which, my friends, it really means nothing, and I'll show you why. Now, the 17+ age restriction makes the after-school app even more controversial, and here's why. It's supposed to not be designed for kids under 17. However, it encourages kids to connect the app with any school they belong to, which could be middle school, high school, or anything else. I'll show you that in a minute. Now, what do real users say about the after-school app? Well, somebody in my office was able to pull the first 10 reviews on the Apple Store. Look on the left. Number 1, don't get this app, 1 star. Truly disgraceful, 1 star. Destruction, 1 star. This is a good app, 5 stars, 4 stars. Amazing, 5 stars. Disgusting, 1 star. Look at this one. Number 7 is most important. Porn and cyberbullying, and that really is what this app is all about. And we'll show you in part 2 of this video all about that stuff. Technical glitches. The hate for this app is real, but Amazing. Now look very carefully on the right-hand side of the screen, my friends. Do you see that 1 star right there? Look how many people gave it 1 star versus 5 star.
So, I stole this video, I'm sorry, I borrowed this video from Safe Smart, it's not stealing if I give them credit, SafeSmartSocial.com. It's one of the best websites you're going to find for parents to get educated on social media. He has 5-minute videos on tons of different apps that you need to be concerned about and kind of tutorials. If you go to SafeSmartSocial.com. What's a couple high schools nearby here? What's the other one? Pines? Pioneer? Okay. So I just looked on Carson. Now this talks about how many people since the app has been in existence that are associated with the school, and it's 612. Where Pioneer is only 53, so I don't know the difference. But again, there's only 150 kids at Pioneer. Oh, so 53 kids have associated with that with the app. So that gives you an idea of kids are using it at the schools. Who's heard of MeetMe.com? Okay, I've been a cop 19 years. The most scariest case of my law enforcement career came off of MeetMe.com. It is extremely important because now I see it's one of those sites that draws people who are looking to sex traffic kids. We have a lot of cases involving MeetMe.com. It used to be called My Yearbook, got bought by MeetMe. So just be aware if your kids are on this.
In dates, they got jumped instead. One of them even stabbed. WBZ's Kate Merrill's live in Worcester tonight with those details. Kate?
Liam, the attacks happened here at these Laurel Street apartments on January 4th and January 10th. Men responding to the same female ad on an app instead were greeted by 2 men who jumped them and robbed them. It's called Meet Me, and the app boasts it can connect you to people near you to chat and share your interests. I see everybody going on those things just to press yes or no, just to see if people are cute or not. Apps like Meet Me or Tinder that connect singles are getting more and more popular. But police in Worcester say when one man tried to meet up with a woman he met on Meet Me here at this apartment complex on Laurel Street, he got something he didn't expect.
This individual was accosted by 2 males. He was...
What about Nearby Friends on Facebook? It's a great feature. You can share your exact GPS location with all of your Facebook friends so they can know where you are anytime they want. Great idea, right?
Tonight at 8, Facebook has announced a new feature that will allow others on Facebook to know exactly where you are at all times by tracking the GPS built into your phone. Our chat reporter Gabe Slade is here. Of course, he has all the details for us. I don't know if I want to be tracked by everybody like that.
Well, let me tell you about it. It's not as bad as it sounds. So it's called Nearby Friends. That's the name of the new feature. And it actually does have some really cool, new, practical uses. But there is a somewhat of a creepy aspect to it as well. It could lead to some stalking, but it definitely raises privacy concerns. This new feature is for Facebook's mobile app.
So I have young kids. They're 7 and 8. And I learn every day that I am not the perfect parent. I make mistakes. You live and you go on. But let's pretend you guys are not me. Okay? I'm not the perfect parent. You, though, all of you, are all the perfect parents. You do everything right. So specifically, like where should your kids charge their phones? In your bedroom. Okay? So you're doing that. You charge your kids' phones in your bedroom because you pay for the phone, you own the phone, you let them use the phone, but it also gives you an opportunity to go through the phone and make sure if you see any apps and different things that you're not familiar with, you can become familiar with it, and it keeps you on top of what they're doing. It also keeps your kids off the phone in the middle of the morning when they should be sleeping and texting people. So you do everything right. And I laugh because I'm the guy up here teaching this, and when I talk about I'm not the perfect parent, I was doing a presentation. I was teaching at the International Law Enforcement Academy in Budapest, Hungary it was 4 months ago, and it was lunchtime. So I go back, upstairs to the room, I come back, I'm just kind of unwinding, getting ready for the afternoon presentation, and I start looking at my phone. And I start seeing all these text messages to one of my 8-year-old's friend. And I start doing the math in my head. I'm like, it's 9 hours ahead, it's 3-something in the morning at home, and my 8-year-old, what he doesn't realize is on our iPad, I have it synced to my phone, so everything that goes through it, I get to see. And I'm like, he got up in the middle of the night, went and grabbed it off the kitchen counter where the iPad was, because my mother-in-law was in town watching the kids, and was texting his 8-year-old friend. Luckily, his 8-year-old friend didn't text back. But the point is this, even you think you do everything right and you're still missing, you're not going to do everything perfect. But if you're the perfect parent, guess what? They have apps for parents like you.
As parents, we'd like to think we know what our kids are doing on their smartphones and tablets.
Yeah, but there are also some apps designed to hide their activities from you. Our consumer specialist, Rick Romero, will blow that cover. He shows us what to look for.
When your child is on their smartphone or tablet computer, do you have any idea what they're doing? Can you be sure they're not texting, downloading, or contacting someone or something that can cause them harm?
What did you guys find?
But even if you check their devices, you may be missing something. Because today, there are hundreds of secret apps children know about, but can hide from their parents.
They're hiding pornography, they're hiding chats with other people, and they're hiding things that actually they should be more aware are dangerous to these kids.
David Perry is one of the leading cybersecurity experts in the country. He says some of the popular secret apps like Calculator Percent, KaiCal, or Best Secret Folder are disguised as fully functional calculators. But when a secret passcode is entered, it unlocks a whole new gateway for your child.
Scary, right? So during one of my middle school, it was actually in Pahrump, at Roseberry Clark Middle School. I was doing a middle school presentation. At the end, I don't talk about hiding apps in that presentation. So I get done, and a 6th grader walks up to me and says, hey, I don't know if you know, but there's ways to hide apps on a phone. And I'm like, really? How? He's like, well, let me show you. If you have an iPhone, you hold it down so it starts wiggling. You drag it into a folder, so you create or you make a folder. Then you hold it down, you drag it to the right twice, so there's 3 dots. You hold down the home button and swipe up, and it vanishes. And it does. Completely vanishes off the platform. The only way to find it is if you actually punch in the name of the app. And I learned this from a 6th grader. So I had to do a little research after that. So here's what I learned after he told me that, and it does work. If you're going to look into your kid's phone and you want to find out what's going on, restart the device. If they've hidden it that way, it's going to reappear if they've restarted it. Another thing you could do to make sure, and I don't want to get too complicated with a jailbroken phone, but especially with an Apple, you plug the phone into the Apple or to the computer, and you want to sync with Apple. If they've done anything to change the platform, it's going to get pushed back to the way it should be. So that's another thing. You could always sync it to your home computer and reset the device that way. This is a couple weeks ago, and there was a thing when I talk about images. I don't want to get too complicated with images, but every image has a thing called a hash value. A hash value is similar to the DNA makeup of a photograph. However, it is 10 times more accurate than DNA. So if 2 hash values match, it's an algorithm. If the 2 hash values match, there is 0 question it is the same picture. So let's pretend you post a picture on Match.com, and I'm the creepy guy that just won't go away, and I want to find information about you. I can upload that picture, upload it to Google, and find that picture anywhere else on the internet. So 2 weeks ago, it's a rapper named Little Bow Wow is on a commercial airline flight. I don't know if you heard about this in the news, but he's flying to New York City. So he posts, that here's the post on the left. Travel Day, New York City press run for growing up hip hop. Let's go. I promise to bring you the hottest show ever, May 25th. So that's the picture he posts on his Instagram. But he's flying in coach on a flight to New York. So someone took a picture of him, and then they uploaded that picture to Google and found out where the photo came from. That's kind of how we got busted, because he's kind of acting like he's taking a picture of a jet that he's on when he's really flying coach. So the point is, it's easy to search images online.
A 1,000 words. Wouldn't it be great if you could use an image to start your search on Google? Now you can, with search by image. Whether your photo is from the web or your last vacation, you can search places, art, and even mysterious creatures with just one picture. And to search by image even faster, use the Chrome or Firefox extension. Now, every image is a jumping off point to explore, examine, and discover. To get started, go to images.google.com and click the camera icon.
IFTTT. This is a free website where you can create an account. It's called If This, Then That. IFTTT. And you can create what's basically called a recipe. So you could say, if Johnny posts on Instagram, email me the photo at this address. Does that make sense? So you can create thousands of different recipes, as they're called. So for example, are there any Dodger fans in the room? I apologize in advance for this next slide, but I'm a Giants fan. So I posted this to my Instagram page. It's never too early to teach your kids the lessons of losing. So as soon as I posted it to Instagram, this is the picture. It mailed it from that website to me, showing that I had posted it. So you can create these free recipes where if your kids are posting on a social networking site, we'll actually email you as soon as they do it. And that's free. Little kids should not be using Google. They should be using kidrex.org. It is owned by Google. It's identical to Google, but Google filters everything that they're going to get, so they're not going to get anything inappropriate. It's kidrex.org. So, I don't give product endorsements. This next product, though, is a product that is out there that can track what your kids do online.
You can keep your children safe while they're young. You can know everything about them and protect them from harm. But time will pass and they'll grow up. They'll begin to live their lives through this. And suddenly, you won't know everything about them. And protecting them will be out of your control. They'll make friends you don't know, learn information they don't yet need to know, and see photos they shouldn't see. Their phone will give them private access to a world they never knew. And with that comes issues. Being bullied, engaging in unsafe conversations, and receiving inappropriate propositions, all from the people they invited into their life. Technology has brought with it a world your child might not be ready for, but it doesn't have to be this way. You can protect them with TeenSafe, an online software dedicated to helping parents protect their children from harm. By setting up a TeenSafe account, you're able to view their text messages, even deleted texts, their WhatsApp and Kick Chat sessions, what sites they visited. You can even monitor the interactions they've had through social media on Facebook and Instagram. TeenSafe can help in the real world too. You can see their current location and confirm if they're exactly where they're supposed to be. As a parent, you care deeply for your children. But if you don't know the challenges they face or the dangers they may be in, how can you watch over them? TeenSafe, protecting your most valuable treasure. Begin a free trial today.
So last year, when I added this in, I wasn't going to pay the $10 a month. I told you I was thrifty. So I wasn't going to pay the $10 a month to see how this product worked, but they had a 2-week free sample. So I came home and I told my wife, I go, hey, there's this cool product out there that I really want to see how well it works, and I kind of got to test it out for 2 weeks so I can talk about it. So for the next 2 weeks, I'd like to put it on your phone so I can see how it works. So she was thrilled. So I put it on my wife's phone, and this kind of gives you an idea. She had 1,941 text messages, 167 contacts, 609 calls. She had 44 text messages that she had previously deleted on her phone, 763 websites. Everything that she was doing, it recorded. Well, see the 44 deleted text messages? I covered them up so it's not all her businesses and out of my class, but it recovered every one of the deleted text messages. It also, as you can see right here, she was on December 23rd at 5:44, she was at Kohl's.com. I'm like, you give me a hard time for procrastination? So again, that is one product that is out there called Teen Safe. I will tell you, this next one I love. Well, another reason I love it, it's free. Okay, but they have a $40 a year version, and you download the kid app and you download the parent app. The parent app, you have absolute control over your child's phone. You can prevent them from using their apps between 9 a.m. and 3 in the afternoon when they're in school. You can prevent them from calling only certain people, or you can make them where it can only call certain people. You can lock down the amount of time that they get on the internet. They have another feature that's kind of cool. Let's say they want more time. There's a chore function. So if you say you want them to do a chore, it says take photo or video evidence, and it will send it to you on the chore function. Then from your phone, you can actually grant them more time of internet and so forth. Bedtime app blocker, there's a ton of different things that the app does. It's $40 for the year, or they have a free one you can download that's one device per child, and it's still pretty functional. So as we're wrapping up here, a couple things. We're always telling kids, don't do this, don't do that, but we don't really give them tools on what they can do. This next app is designed where kids can download if somebody asks them to send them an inappropriate photo. So instead of sending the inappropriate photo, the app's designed to make humor out of an uncomfortable situation so the kid can think before they do something that they're going to regret 30 seconds later.
Romeo, Juliet, 21st century internet. Romeo sends a text, Juliet, thou don't protest. Send me a pic of you addressed. So Juliet, not impressed, say sorry, no, to Romeo, but that don't get it into his head. So Juliet sends this instead, sends this instead, sends this instead. Juliet sends this instead.
Some resources. You can go to the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force and click on the resource link. There are a ton of resources there. A great one is the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, especially if you are educating kids. You can download lesson plans and PowerPoints based upon the age of the child that you are instructing, and it's free at National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Just click on resources. NeedHelpNow.ca is a website out of Canada. That's another good website. I gave you the Safe, Smart, and Social, which I think is great. And there's one more called Internet Safety Concepts that's out there as well, that are all great websites. One thing that's not in the presentation that I like to talk about at the end, because I had a very, very horrible case that's last December, where a 14-year-old, it was 2 days before Christmas, I kind of gave people an early out, and I knew not to answer the phone when I was walking out the door, but I did. And it was a 14-year-old crying hysterical that basically her Facebook, all of her accounts had been overtaken. And what had happened is she had got a picture from a guy she was talking with that had a virus that was able to capture her passcode. He was able to change her passcode. And what happened, once it was changed, he reset the email address, so she had no control over any of her sites. So after that case, and I always talk about password safety, but I was kind of a hypocrite until that case, because I'm like the same as everybody here. You have one password, and then it makes you change it, and you add a 1 to it. It makes you change it again, you add a 2, 3. So here's what I did. If you were to offer me $1 million in cash and put it on the stage in front of me right now to tell you my password to my Yahoo email, I cannot. I have no clue. You could say, here's $1 million, give me your password, and and you can change it in 5 seconds. I don't know my password. I know it's 32 characters, it's random. I got Japanese language writing in it. It's so, you're not cracking my password. It is so random. And I use a password manager called LastPass. Again, that's just one that's out there, but that's the one I use. Again, not a product endorsement, but if I go into, it causes me to have to do one extra step. So let's say I want to go into my banking app. So on my phone, if I don't use my thumb, but I go into the LastPass, I see the name of the bank. So if it said Wells Fargo, I hit copy password, and then I go into the app and I just hit paste. I never see it, I just copy and paste. So it causes you to have to do one different step, but it makes your passwords extremely, extremely difficult. And I have that on all of my settings. And the ideal behind that is you only have to memorize one password, your LastPass, which is, you make it very, very difficult. But the point is I do it with my thumb now anyway. So another thing you can add with password safety is two-party authentication. So if somebody logs in from a non-recognized device, it's going to ask them for a text message with a code. You can turn that on with Instagram, Facebook, they're the same company. You can turn that on with a lot of the different providers. So something to think about. Two-party authentication and a password manager so you don't have to worry about your account getting overtaken, because it is a huge problem that we do see. So my email is r7598, the letter S, at lvmpd.com. You could call me, but the email is probably the best to get a hold of me. It's 828-3111, but the email goes directly to me too often. Again, I get emails all of the time, parents with questions. If you have a question or anything that, like I said, please reach out. I get them all the time. If I don't know the answer, I will get the answer for you. So again, I hope you benefited from the presentation. I will stick around. Again, if you have any questions, I will make sure I will stick around for any questions. You can turn off the location tag for the app itself. But even more so, I would tell you to turn it off in the camera.
Okay, so I got mine off in my camera.
Yeah, if you have it off in the camera, you're going to be okay.
Okay.
So, but keep in mind, if you're using an Android device and you have third-party cameras, you have to turn it off in each camera. So, in other words, if you are using the camera that it came with, then you're okay. But if you downloaded a different camera, then you would have to turn it off into that camera.
So the schools in Carson City are trying now to issue all the students a little laptop or whatever. Is that a good idea? Are those controlled where they can't go to all these sites?
Schools, most your schools are going to have IT professionals that are going to take steps to protect the devices. With that being said, I mean, I've had cases where kids have gotten workarounds, but your IT professionals at the schools are going to lock those devices down. And I without even getting it, I mean, I can't speak for sure, without talking to them specifically, but I would be rather confident that the school is going to have safeguards in place on that device. I mean, if they're giving them out to the kids, it's a very hot topic. They're going to put safeguards and some parental controls on those devices, or school controls.
Anyone else? Yes.
Ray, we're for the crisis call center. We run texting for the nation. We get an awful lot of texts for youth and talking about sending a photograph of this time. Where do we send those complaints to? We always have a problem. We got from Florida.
Every complaint, if involving a child, you go to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Okay. They are the repository for every one of them. So if that comes in and it's a suicidal child, they will wake me up in the middle of the night with that report. So, and that's kind of how the task force works. I will get a phone call. At that point, if I see it's in Carson City, I'm going to be on the phone with the detective here in Carson City and get them that report. So we basically act, the National Center is the repository for every one of them. They're going to do a ton of work, and they have a lot of resources to find out where it's coming from.
So we would have to call them, we would figure out automatically.
Yeah, they have an online portal for professionals where you can make an online report to the National Center. And it's staffed. The operation that they run is a phenomenal operation. So if you make that report to the National Center and you put life safety on there, it's going to be read within minutes.
Say Instagram and Snapchat, you're saying the best way to keep a safe eye on your child is limit the number of friends, maybe to a small group of family and close friends, and to friend them on the Facebook, on the Snapchat or Instagram, and possibly use the Teen Safe or Safe Smart and social websites to keep yourself educated and keep an eye on them.
Sums it up perfectly. I mean, there's nothing you can do. I mean, there's no perfect, like I said, I can't give you a perfect solution, but I will tell you that with going through, if your kids are going to have a device, the rule needs to be that you can take it at any point and look through the device. And, nothing scares me more than when I talk with parents that don't know the passcode to their kids' electronic devices. And you'd be shocked how often that happens. You should be, as the parent, be able to grab that phone, grab that iPad, and look through it anytime you want if they're going to have it. And doing those type of things with what you mentioned is going to be the best thing that you can do to keep your kids safe.
I can't thank you enough for being here and doing this, because less than a week ago, my 13-year-old through Instagram, through a friend of a friend, was being bullied and trying to have her send nude pictures of herself. And thank God she was smart enough, she didn't do it. But just to let everyone here know, it's real.
Yeah, and when I say, I mean the amount of I don't know if I finished with this. When we had 1 million reports the year, we almost broke 1 million cyber tips. And the following year, we had 4 million. That's the type of volume that we're talking with. So, when you have something like that, make that report, because she can live in Carson City, but who knows where the person extorting her lives, kind of like the Amanda Todd situation. I mean, it gets very, very complicated, and that's why you have to have these coordinated task forces, because otherwise, we would never catch a lot of these predators.
We did call 911, and the police came to the house and said the only thing they could really do was have a block that particular person.
Which is the advice that we typically give people because the block is the easiest way to solve the issue right then. If you can block the communication and end it at that point, 99% of it, that's the best way to handle it. But if there's cases where it's continual, because this here, even with the Amanda Todd case, it was blocked and they found the new page and continual stuff. So just be aware of that. I saw some other hands. Yes?
What are the legal guidelines in starting up an internet company?
Well, so to operate an internet company in the United States, and it's a long federal code, but there's a ton of different federal laws as far as if you're with the FCC and dealing with kids, where the biggest thing is for child exploitation, they're required to make a report. Basically, if they become aware of any case involving child exploitation, they're required to make that report to the National Center. The problem with a lot of these companies, such as Kik, especially Kik, it's a Canadian-based company that does not have to respond to U.S. court orders. So, it gets a little more difficult when you start dealing with these global companies. And I could get way more into the weeds and difficult, when you're talking about some of the electronics and how people are masking their IP addresses and those type of things, but it's difficult. So, there was a question in.
I have one stand from the Crisis Call Center, and my thought is, for some of the topics we were talking about, dealing with bullying, is that in addition to getting information to you and your team, if you're dealing with bullying, Nevada also has a bullying line where you can go on and make a report. So as parents or guardians, it's a secondary thing to do after you've reported it, so the police. If these are school-age kids or anybody like that, you go to the bullying.nv.gov and they have a report there, and you fill that out, and it goes straight to the school, if you know who they are, it goes to the office of the Department of Education, and then they can take it from that angle as well. And you can list that you've already reported it to Mr. Spencer's group.
Okay, well, on behalf of the Sierra Nevada Forums and the Carson City Sheriff's Office, thanks so much for being so concerned that you'd come out and spend time.
Thank you.